Okay, so today I'm going to be introducing my third slots. Basically, we keep doing 2 of each category. In the aftermath now of my sort of main series ending, I'll introduce the third one that I was talking about. My main series that I was watching was The Sopranos, and I originally didn't have like a failure condition for it, like I'll watch until something happens. But then I introduced a few as we went on. If it gets 3 F-grade episodes, which only got 1, but we were only at episode 13, then number 2 is if Tony, the main character, obviously gets to a -10 on the character point system, and he only got as low as -4, but again, we're still early in the series. And then the third condition was one that I had just introduced like an episode ago, but it seemed fair because they kept using this and rubbing it in my face, was if Tony gets saved by plot armor 3 times, and this can apply to like any series. If a character, even like a comedy or something, for some reason if a character almost is about to die, if the main character gets saved by plot armor alone 3 times in the course of the series, or not even in the course of the series, in the course of a single season. That's why it's kind of even a low standard, and it doesn't seem that harsh, even though this series obviously lived up to it. Like, Tony gets saved in episode 5, right? The guy's about to kill him outside the hotel, and then he just doesn't. And then, obviously, episode 12, he's about to get hit, and he just gets saved by the stupidity of the people attack. Like, it's not the character doing something to actually get out of the situation. Not really, anyway. It's just, oh, he's the main character, and that's how you feel. They're the main character, so they can't lose, right? So I'm always harsh on that. And then the third time was in episode 13 again. He's completely caught off guard by Artie, and then he just doesn't do it. So people will try to defend that and say, well, the episode 5 one you can't really defend, right? Maybe just in game theory you say, well, Tony at his best wouldn't be in that situation because of his daughter, but that's his fault. Like, you have to account for that. Either don't have a family, because family's a weakness, or you have to account for that better. This is the business you've chosen, and then episode 12, you're about to get hit, you have no idea. Even when it happens, he doesn't really suspect who does it. Right, he doesn't know right away, and then it takes him a while to figure it out. So if that hit was just handled properly, he wasn't ready for that. He wasn't like a step ahead. He doesn't have a bodyguard. He doesn't have anything, right? So you could have easily, like I was saying in the whole series, it would have been easy to kill this guy. And so I called that, but then again, they won't let it happen. And then episode 13, again, even after that hit fails, they get another hit attempt, basically, that his mother so brilliantly is able to, pull out of thin air as one final time. He's still caught off guard by Artie, but again, then he just doesn't decide to kill him. So that's failing on the 3 plot armor thing, which again, I'll apply that to basically any series, that if either they're saved by plot armor from being killed, or they're saved by plot armor from something else, like, if there's some sort of other condition to the series, like, for example, the characters are having some contest, and like this would happen in Pokemon, actually. This is a good thing. It's not that Ash would die, but the plot armor saves him, like where Misty just gives up, right, and lets him win. So if something like that happens where, the main character wins every match, like in Yu-Gi-Oh! Or something, like you're playing card games, you're not really going to die, although sometimes you will get sent to the Shadow Realm or something. But if 3 times a character is saved by that, they're not actually winning, they're just, somebody's giving them whatever, they win for some bullshit reason, which I guess in Yu-Gi-Oh! That happens a lot, where they just get lucky or something, but I mean, like, basically, Misty just forfeits, and Ash wins the gym badge, technically, but he actually doesn't. He was gonna lose, but they just let him win, just because he's the main character and that has to happen, and, there's no good reason for it. It's not like some sort of strategy outside of the game, outside of the match, too, like, oh, Ash has blackmail on Misty, he has some some illicit photos, and if he, that's why she has to give up. At least that would be like, okay, he's at least got some, trump card up his sleeve. So even though that would be a dirty tactic, that would still at least count to his credit. Whereas this point obviously doesn't. Right, so that's to be considered. And then the other element is, the other conditions were just F grades. I guess I could keep that too. If you have 3 F letter grades of any series, I'll stop watching. And then if the main character gets to a -10 on the character point system also, all 3 of those could apply to any series that I watch, especially in this sort of slot, which will be one of 2 things. It'll either be like a drama slot where I'll watch until I get bored or something like that, like with girls, or it'll be like a detective series that I'll watch until I guess like the killer wrong or something. So I'll have to like guess who the killer is early on, in the episode, like by the halfway point, let's say, and if I fail to guess correctly by that point, then I have to stop watching. So sometimes they'll make it obvious too, and it's just more a question of catching them. Like, they'll tell you who it is in the first 10 minutes, right? But then you just can't prove it, and they have to work their way around that or something like that. So I could do a detective slot like that. I could do, again, just a drama slot, like where I watch until I get bored, which is kind of hard for me to really gauge, but I'll be fair about it. Like Girls episode 2, I got bored like that. And then we could also do other slots, like for example, I was joking about one, but I could unironically do it. Watch a series where it's supposed to be like erotic somehow, right? And watch a soap opera until you get emotional, until you cry or something. And then watch a something that's supposed to be erotic until you actually get aroused somehow, which seems hilarious and stupid, but that's what these formats kind of are. They're kind of random. So these are all the different formats we could do. And so basically what you have is a situation where you basically have a situation where, let's just recap the kind of formats that we have going on, right? We have the one format that's basically like, okay, comedy slot 1, which that is watch until an episode fails to make me laugh. So that one's we're not doing right now, or we kind of keep alternating, but I guess if we have one of the series ongoing, then I won't do the other one within that same type. So comedy slot 1 right now is on hold, right? But that is, comedy slot 1 is watch a comedy until an episode fails to make me laugh at least once. So we had previously done like The Big Bang Theory and Curb Your Enthusiasm, the 2000 series, not the little short movie sort of thing, 1999 Larry Davis Curb Your Enthusiasm, but we had done The Big Bang Theory and Curb Your Enthusiasm for watch until an episode fails to make me laugh. So right now that's on hold because of comedy slot 2, right? So whenever one of those ends, we switch to the other slot, and then we'll go back to it if this one fails. So comedy slot 2 is going to be a case where watch until you laugh, period. Almost like a try not to laugh challenge for the whole series. So if I laugh at any point, then the whole series is over. So we're doing Full House. So we had watched episode 1 of that, and it failed to make me laugh. So, we'll keep watching it until we eventually laugh. And if it never makes me laugh, then that's going to be, I guess we'll watch the whole thing, which isn't necessarily a bad thing, but whatever. And it's not even saying the series is bad because of that, but within reason, you should laugh. Like, the first episode wasn't even bad. So then the third slot is like a horror slot 1. And so horror slot 1 is going to be where I watch until an episode fails to scare me. So I had done Lovecraft Country with that, and it failed to scare me, and it was also boring as hell, so it failed on that condition too, I suppose, right? And very much just the pilot. And so that would go into just the first episode it failed. Then the second slot is horror slot 2. I can watch even a movie, I guess, right, for any of these potentially, like a comedy movie or a horror movie. But what you have is a simple ability to say, in horror slot 2, watch until I get scared, period. So I watched like The Witch in there for the first time, and it didn't scare me, so I watched the whole thing. And it was kind of overrated too. Like, it wasn't bad, but it's not as good as what people say. And I'm not going to blame this format of how I'm watching it, because I'm giving it a benefit of the doubt that way. Like, sometimes I can't see everything. There was like a glare, it was dark, but like, I understood what was happening generally, but it doesn't matter. Like, it wasn't like a masterpiece or something like the way you hear about it. It was still good, but that's about it. And then the other thing is the final slot now that we're introducing, that could either be one of like 4 things I think I mentioned. One of them could be a drama slot. So this could be drama slot 1, right, where I watch until I get bored. Then detective slot, right, this is detective slot 1, where you have to guess the killer by the halfway point of the episode, or the culprit, and if you fail to guess that, Even you could even do that like with Scooby-Doo or something. That'd be funny. Like, right, because there's always somebody that they're trying to catch. I would have gotten away with it if it wasn't for you meddling kids. That'd be fucking hilarious, actually. You watch Scooby-Doo until you fail to guess the culprit. And sure, I've seen some of it as a kid, but I'm not going to remember, right? And they, maybe tend to make it obvious, but sometimes they probably don't. So you can do it that way. And so what happens is, again, so the fifth slot is watch a drama until you get bored. That's the only way I can really, come up with, like, what would be a failure state for a drama. And then number 6 would be watch a detective show until you fail to guess the culprit by, like, let's say the halfway point. Maybe I could adjust it later if that doesn't seem practical. But because sometimes it's unfair, right? Sometimes you won't meet the culprit until over halfway in the episode. So how the fuck am I supposed to guess it, right? Like, just guess it at any point before the characters outright say it, but there has to be some sort of other rule to it than that, right? Like, you have to come up with theories and be sort of a step ahead. So there'll be exceptions, but effectively guess the killer by the halfway point and sort of reflect, like, guess them pretty early on before the characters do and things like that. And then the other one, so that's slot 6, then slot 7 and 8 could be watch a soap opera till you cry, or, like, really get them, until you actually tear up or get emotional, which that could be really hard. Because I'm not the type to do that. I mean, not that it's never happened. The moments, this is one of my psychological ideations, actually. The moments that typically have made me tear up in stories are actually very strange. Like, when a character refuses to give up, sort of a moment, even if it's, like, the villain. So, like, here's, like, a tear-up worthy moment. Like when they do something just very impressive strategically, or they're just very capable. So, like, when Vegeta is saying to Kid Buu, what did you think? I was going to roll over and die from an attack like that? Like, when he's talking shit to him, even though he's getting his abs speed the whole fight. That moment actually probably made me tear up a little bit as a kid, because it's, like, just the willpower in that element. So it's different than just, like, oh, it's supposed to be sad or whatever. So that's just more impressive. Or like King Bradley in Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood, when he's about to die and he grabs and even though he's a villain, he grabs his arms get blown off by Scar, and then he grabs the sword that's been broken in the same moment with his teeth and fucking stabs, he stabs Scar in the chest with that, which should have actually killed Scar, honestly, but plot armor. So basically that would have made me tear up. So those kind of moments get me more than anything, where it's like just a pure willpower, human potential, almost absolutist moment, like where you blow the fucking guy's arms off, but he still has the willpower. He'll grab the fucking, what remains of the broken sword with his teeth and fucking stab you with that too. Like, that kind of moment is what kind of gets me. I'm trying to think, let me think of one more example, like, oh yeah, The Truman Show, when he's raising the sail after they almost kill him by, like, they're manipulating the weather, and he's about to fall off the boat and die, and he's drowning. And his first thing after getting up with this epic music by Philip Glass is not to, I'm going to turn back, or I'm going to give up, or I'm going to lament it. He immediately raises the sail again, and he just keeps on fucking going, which basically says to them, the only way to stop me is to kill me. You could do it again, drown me again, and I'll just keep going. Like, that level of willpower, right? So it's these moments of not giving up and sort of just showing your full potential. Those are actually ones that would get me. I could watch like a soap opera or something, or that could be a general overall failure condition, like if it makes me cry. That'd be so stupid though. Like, then I'd watch like either The Young and the Restless or something, and I would watch the whole thing until I cry, but then I'll never actually do it, right? I'm trying to think. There's other moments and stuff like in certain series or shows or movies where I might have done that, but it would just be a case where it'd be a case where if you cry at any point in any series, that should be a failure state. But maybe for certain ones, it shouldn't be. And maybe crying of laughter with how fucking stupid some of these characters are. Like Tony Soprano. I mean, people will think I hate him, but it was just kind of a disappointment, right? Like, he wasn't capable enough, so he loses the plot armor count 3. And then, okay, so that's slot 7, and then slot 8 would be some sort of slot 8 would be watch something until you get aroused. So it doesn't mean I have to follow these in exact formation. But right now we have one ongoing series, right? So we only want to do it on a 2-day basis. So every other day, right, it has to be one of these 2 slots. So the first slot that's surviving right now through episode 1 is the comedy slot 2. And the comedy slot 2 is where, again, watch until you laugh. So the try not to laugh challenge. Just like how we basically have the horror slot 2, try not to get scared challenge. So the try not to laugh challenge is Full House. We're on episode 2, so we'll watch that tomorrow. But today I want to watch something in one of these other slots. So we've already watched a horror slot, kind of rotate and do a round robin and circle back around eventually. So again, this is awesome actually. Let me think about though the 2 series that I originally wanted to watch that made me want to start doing this again, or start doing React content overall, right? I watched the Barbie movie and now I've watched The Witch. Those are the 2 movie entries, but it was actually it was Monk, right? Monk, on which I always hear the Psych, which is one of my favorite shows, and The Mentalist, which is one of my favorite shows, were sort of based on in part. I mean, obviously The Mentalist copied Psych very overtly, but Monk is a very well-regarded series where it's kind of a pseudo-comedy detective show kind of all in one. Well, the point with that is that's one of the things I wanted to watch. Or that could be, I don't know what the condition would be. I could either predict the killer and I could also watch until it makes me laugh, or watch until it fails to make me laugh. I'm not sure. So that Monk was one series, and then like Serial Experiments Lain or something it's called, where it's this young girl, it's an anime, like where she's working on a computer and she gets obsessed with the computer, something like that. Those 2 I wanted to watch actually. So I might do one of those, but I don't know, like it's not going to be available on the platform on HBO Max, so I might have to go out of my way to find it, but one of those 2 would be actually a good idea now that I've kind of run out of ideas and The Sopranos is over. And then beyond that, you have one other thing, which is simply the fact of I've introduced a sort of the 8 formats that we can draw from. And so we're going to have a situation where I might not do them always in order or anything like that, but basically what I was doing was I would do like a slot 1, then the slot 1 at the other one. So like I would do a, comedy slot 1, then horror slot, then if that failed and ended, whatever, right, then we'd move on to horror slot 1, then we go back, if that fails, to comedy slot 2, then if that failed, we go to horror slot 2, so I would sort of use it to alternate. So the comedy slot is still ongoing, and I'm going to basically replace the main series that I was doing. I would do it like that way too. I would do like the comedy slot 1, then the main series slot, like Sopranos, then I would do the other slot, the slot 1, like so you would always have the main series going on every other day, and it would just depend which secondary series that you were really doing, right? And so the basis behind that, oh wow, our thing fell again, even though that's been good for a couple of days so far. So yeah, we'll do one of 2 things then. And again, tomorrow will be Full House episode 2, season 1 episode 2, no matter what, because that makes me laugh. But this slot will be one of 2 things, and I'm going to decide it today, and I should still have time to also do it. The first, I guess it would have to be the Serial Experiments Lain, but it's not on HBO Max. See, I've been sort of letting that determine, because I'm subscribed to that. I've been letting that sort of determine what I watch, because whatever, that's just, I didn't want to subscribe to too many things, and we still have to stay on that because of the Full House thing, but I might have to find Serial Experiments Lain, like where to watch that, where to watch the other one, but I've been sort of letting HBO Max dictate it to some extent, just like if it's not on there, I can't watch it, so I at least have to settle for something that is on there. And then, what else? We'll do one of those 2, though, and I'm not going to really bill it as, watching until I get bored, but there will be the failure conditions. So whether it be, if it's Monk, it'll be I have to guess the killer by halfway in the episode, every episode, otherwise I have to stop watching, with some exceptions, again. If we don't even meet the killer, I guess that would have to be my prediction. Like, we haven't met them yet, and I have to say that with certainty by exactly the halfway point, whatever the timestamp length of the episode is. Right, so whatever it is, either I have to guess the killer by the middle point of the episode, or it could be something to do with doing it as a comedy slot, but I guess I won't. Like if if an entire season fails to make me laugh at least once, that's also a failure state, and those would be the 2 conditions then. The entire season has to make me laugh at least 3 times, right, since it is a comedy series, and I have to guess the killer every single episode. And then beyond that, you have the regular conditions that you have, which is like if the main character, who I think's name is Monk, or maybe he just is a monk and he has some spiritualistic weird way of solving crimes. I don't know. But basically the point is that, like, instead of a mentalist, he's a monk, but a monk is like a whatever. The point is that those are the two primary failure states. You have to guess the killer, and we'll do that with like other detective shows and things like that as well. You have to guess the killer or the culprit by the halfway point of the episode. That might be refreshing if it's one that actually doesn't deal with always murders. It could deal with just other crimes overall. Like he's trying to solve who found a painting, or, you know, some kind of eccentric character, Sherlock Holmes-esque, but, you know, almost like Mr. Bean style, where it's just like a little comic relief how he solves things, but also like they were going to get Michael Richards to play the role, so he might not even seem that smart, but he'll still always come through in the end with clutching it out. Whereas like Sean Spencer, for example, is extremely smart. Even though he's goofy, I always respected his intelligence on the surface level. Like, part of it is he's just putting it on. He's actually just super smart straight up. It doesn't seem like he's bumbling and stupid, right? He's actually in control. That's actually kind of a different characterization than that type of comic relief character typically, right? Normally it's like they're bumbling around, but then they somehow come up with a solution anyway. Sean is usually in control. He's just pretending to be psychic instead, and he's also just a goofy guy who has ADHD or whatever the hell. He just has trouble concentrating, and he just kind of goes off on tangents and jokes. But when he's actually doing detective work, he's actually just smart on a surface level. So that's kind of a rare writing technique, right? I don't remember him stumbling around too much, or even if it seemed like he was, it's just because the case is really that hard and he's actually, you know, maybe struggling with it a little bit. But that every character goes through that. It's not always easy for Jane. It's not always easy for everybody. So the point is that what you have, and that's one mischaracterization. Sometimes you hear about like Jane as a character, right, from The Mentalist. It's not that, oh, he's just trying to play games and have fun with it, and that's why he struggles. No, it's that he is really smart, but that doesn't mean that he's going to always solve everything overnight, you know what I mean? So his unusual methods aren't him trying to have fun with it, although maybe in part a little bit. His unusual methods are just how he does things, right? And it's just a matter of which crazy technique he's going to use next. Right, so every episode will have like some gambit little technique that he uses. I assume with all, you know, with Psych, with the Mentalist, and with this, they'll come up with some clever ruse to basically catch the killer. And some of them are kind of disappointing and fairly ordinary, right, at times, but yeah, that could be the condition there. And then the condition with the other thing could be obviously the fact that the condition with Serial Experiments Lain or a series like that is I'd watch until I get bored, but again, that I'm not going to like even upload it as that with that in the title, because that makes it sound like I'm rooting against it. With Girls, it was kind of funny to say that, but I won't put that. I'll just put that I'm watching for the first time, but it could end if I get bored, and again, that's kind of hard to determine, but I'll be honest about it and fair. Like, it has to truly, thoroughly bore me at one moment in the series. And then beyond that, again, the overall failure conditions that exist for every series are like, if the main character gets to a minus 10 character points, if they get saved by plot armor 3 times, and if the series gets 3 F letter grades within a season, which in the case of an anime, the whole thing would only be a season. So what I'm actually going to do is I will do like a virtual coin flip thing to let it decide for me. And so I looked up Monk. Like, I'll say, you know, heads is Monk and tails is Lain, and I'll let that actually decide, because I can't decide. But those are actually the two series, for whatever reason. I just had an urge, you know, Monk, because I've heard good things about it, and similar to series I've liked, and obviously, Lain just randomly, like a clip or the premise caught my attention, so the point is that you're basically in a position where I'm going to do one or the other, and it'll require me to either subscribe to Crunchyroll for Lain, I looked up like where to watch, and then for Netflix for Monk. I guess Netflix could work out, because maybe Netflix has Full House too, because I don't know how exclusive some of these series are to just one platform, but I feel like, you know, like, how could Full House only be on one thing? But maybe that is actually true. And what's annoying with these streaming services is they shuffle around too. Like, you know, some series will always be like on HBO Max if it's like an HBO series, which I think, you know, Sopranos was an HBO series, I think, originally. Anyway, so that much is fine. But the point is that basically it's a position where you get to it'll keep changing for a lot of these series. So one month Monk might be on here, and then another time it'll be on some other platform, or so you have to subscribe to 50 different services for 50 different shows that you want to watch, even at 50 different times. Even I'll subscribe to Peacock for this one, and then I'll subscribe to another one for another show. So you're subscribing to each one for only one show, because whatever you feel like watching at the time. So that's the downside. The upside is you obviously get hundreds of shows for, a pretty reasonable monthly thing. It's just even for this purpose, I was letting it dictate what I was watching too much. If it's not on HBO Max, then I can't watch it, because then I'm not, it's not really going to work, because I'll have to keep subscribing to different things, but at least for this one I will. So what I decided is, okay, for Monk's condition, I'll do this. For Monk, it's going to be two things. And again, this could follow up on other detective series or other drama series. What I'll do is, here's the condition. I have to guess who the culprit is by the halfway point in every episode. Now, there's a few exceptions. Again, if they're not even introduced, I'll consider what that should count as. But I have 3 lives per episode. Or, I guess, I have maybe 2 strikes. So we'll do it like the plot armor thing. So if I fail to guess it right 3 times in the course of a season, then I fail. Then I have to stop watching. I think what I was saying, if I can't guess every single episode, that seems unfair, right? Sometimes it'll be too hard. Sometimes I'll make a mistake. It's understandable. But I have to say it with confidence. I can't say, I think it's this guy, and then later in the episode, but by the end, I'll be like, oh no, I changed my mind. I don't get to do that. Right, or I get some sort of lifeline system. But basically, there's 3 strikes and I'm out. So if I fail to guess it twice during the course of a season, I still survive. But if I fail to guess it 3 times during the course of an episode, assuming the seasons are 20 episodes plus, if I fail to guess it 3 times, right, then I have to stop watching. And again, there could be certain exceptions, I guess who did it, but it was 2 people who did it together, like that beach episode in The Mentalist where everybody does it together, all the kids. I don't know how that should work. That technically should be wrong, though. I guess this one girl did it, but she did it, but so did everybody else too. So that doesn't count, because obviously you would have suspected one of the kids, but you know what I mean? You can't just say, I guessed one of them, but you were going to guess one of them no matter what. But the fact that it was all of them, right, I don't know. But yeah, I get 2 lifelines where I can be wrong, or I can just fail to guess them 2 episodes in the season, but if I do it 3 strikes and I'm out, right? So that seems more fair. And then the other condition is just I have to also laugh at least 3 times per season, because it is supposed to be a comedy technically. And then also the other overall conditions just work, and that's what Lain will have too. Lain just doesn't have any other condition I can think of. So what it's going to be is, if, again, the main character, either Monk or Lain, gets to a -10 on the character point system, I'd stop watching. Also, if it gets 3 F grades during the course of a season, which I think Lain would only be 1 season, so in the course of the whole show, if it gets 3 F rated episodes, then, again, either Monk in the course of a season or Lain just overall, then I'll stop watching. And the final condition is, if the main character gets saved by plot armor from whatever, either Monk getting saved from being killed by some culprit or somebody in 3 episodes. It could have happened multiple times in the same episode, actually. So imagine that. The first episode of Monk, he'll get saved 3 times just for comic purposes, but it has to be somewhat to his credit, somewhat to his planning. You'll have to judge his style, it seems like he's bumbling around, but he's actually, imagine if that happens, not only in the first episode, but in the intro of the first episode, that'll be the title song showing him getting saved 3 times in a bumbling way, I was going to trip and fall, but somebody else, and bust my head, but somebody else saves me accidentally without knowing, or something. So that could be a whole comedy skit that he's constantly getting saved from being killed that way, but that'll be my standard. So again, if either Lain or a Monk gets saved by plot armor in the 3 times in the course of a season, again, it could be even multiple times in the same episode, but I think that's very unlikely. So that's actually what ended Sopranos, that he does get saved by plot armor too much. So yeah, either they get saved by plot armor, they get to a -10, or they obviously get 3 F grades. Those can apply to pretty much any series, but especially to probably dramas and this kind of genre, right? Even The Sopranos, I ended up coming up with those criteria for it. So we'll let the coin flip decide in a moment here. I'll have to subscribe to Crunchyroll. Maybe I shouldn't even watch it today, but we're just kind of deciding. and then I'll go into some sort of history of something. I was also thinking I could finish slots, like I could do like a slot just for finishing series, like, oh, I'll watch the rest of Psych until the end, and whatever, do some other format with it, or just to try to finish it. Right, like I never watched the last couple seasons or whatever, or there's like a couple movies like Lassie Come Home or something. Right, there were certain, I feel like there were like almost 3 movies. It was just stuff in other series that I haven't seen, or even like The Mentalist. I never watched like the final season, although I almost don't even want to, like season 6 and on to season 7. Okay, so I did a little virtual coin flip, and I said that heads was Monk and tails was Lain, so we got tails, so we're going to do Lain. And so let me just think about what the conditions are, right? So if I get bored at any point, like fully, thoroughly bored at any one moment even in the series, then I can stop watching it on that basis. I doubt that's even going to happen, but it happened like in season 1, episode 2 of Girls, just where towards the end or somewhere in that episode, they were kind of relying too much on sex and dealing with sex as either humor or drama or just topics. And so I did get fully bored there, but it's not like I'm rooting against it, and I won't even upload them and call them that, like, oh, watch until I get bored, because I don't, I'm not that implies that, like, oh, you're somehow rooting against it or you think it's boring. So that will still be a failure state, but I won't call it that. Like, I'll just say, okay, I'm just watching it for the first time and just giving my thoughts and all that. So that's one failure condition if I get bored. Another failure condition could be if I get to a -10 on the character point system, only for the main character. And then also if there's 3 F letter grade episodes, and also if plot armor saves the main character 3 times. Those are all the conditions. So none of them are really too harsh. Hopefully none of them should really happen. So what else? Maybe give some background on what other anime I've seen, like, what some of my favorite ones are, what some of the best ones are. Like, for example, you have, maybe I'll try to go back and even recall, like, the order in which I've seen them. Probably, aside from maybe animated movies or something, but, like, probably Dragon Ball Z would have been the first one that I might have seen. I've still never seen Dragon Ball, but I did see the entire Dragon Ball Z series at some point. At some point, they stopped showing it. Maybe this would be some shared experience that other people have. I had watched effectively up to the Kid Buu arc, like on TV, and then they suddenly stopped showing it. They just kind of reset to some other point. So they never showed the final Kid Buu fight, like that part of the show. So then I had to finally watch that later on. But that's one full series that I saw that was obviously very good, even if in hindsight, or whatever, there is a lot of filler. The fights do drag on and they're kind of slow-paced a bit too much, but ultimately it's still really good. Right, a lot of the characters are strong. Vegeta in particular is a very well-written character, and so I should almost try to do Dragon Ball then out of respect for that. And then I saw GT, which I don't hate as much as other people do. In fact, the one thing I said about GT is the fact that it's basically the pacing of what Kai should have been. Kai was kind of trying to be a faster-paced version of the main series, right, Z. But the way that GT does it is actually like that. Whether you like GT or not, it goes through a lot of different characters and arcs and storylines very quickly. You go through Rildo, you go through trying to find the 7 balls in the universe or whatever. Then you go through the Shadow Dragon arc, you go through 17, not in this order, but you go through 17, Super 17, you go through Baby Vegeta, you go through all these different things that are all like very well paced, very fast paced. Even if you don't like it, none of those fights or storylines drag on for too long. And beyond that, you have a case where, what do you call it? One thing I have to get for this setup is definitely a better mic situation that would block out some of the background noise or whatever, but it's fine for now. Or it's just really hard to find one like that, I guess. I ordered one, I couldn't find one in the store, like a lavalier mic, first of all. So then I go to order one online, and it takes a really long time to come. And then that one doesn't even work. You need like a special other different one. So now I'd have to do it again. But also, it's just been a comedy of errors setup with respect to how that thing keeps falling off and stuff. My little stand air vent thing, and how I can't even see it properly. So if it's will bring up the whole sub versus dub debate. Like, I don't mind watching in subs, but it's just kind of, I tend to appreciate more visually what's going on if you watch the dub. So it has an advantage that way. So it's not even saying, oh, the sub is bad in most series. It's just more, I prefer to see it in dub at least the first time so I can appreciate the visuals and all that. And, you know, I don't have to keep looking at the subtitles or whatever, but I'm also the same guy who's seen so many movies with subtitles that I do consider so great, so it doesn't mean anything that way. So the other point is that, like, so I'll have to watch it in dub, though, here unconditionally, just because I obviously can't read subtitles. I can barely see it, you know, period, as we're doing this. We just keep kind of glancing over, but whatever, we always do it, like, while I'm driving or something, so, or even eating, like, now, I won't start for now until, whatever, until we're not. But the point is that, yeah, the visual element would be hurt to the extent of not being able to read the subtitles. So it's not even like, oh, you're a degenerate dub fan all the time, but, and maybe, you know, certain series people really hate the dub, although generally the ones that I've seen have been fine. But no, it's got to be dubbed, so that would be the one real bait. But I think the clip I saw was even in English, or maybe it wasn't, maybe it had subtitles, but if this isn't, it must have an English dub, though, surely it'll have one. But yeah, if it's not, then, yeah, that could be another format. That could be like the 9th format that we add. So you have like the comedy slots 1 and 2, horror slots 1 and 2, then you have the drama slot 1, then you have like the detective slot 1, then you have, so that's like 6, then you could have like the soap opera slot 7, then you could have like a arousal slot, which is kind of strange. I don't know how many things would really be tuned to do that, but it's almost like girls would have been suited to do that. Not that it succeeded, but then you have you know, maybe like a finish some other unfinished series slot. That could be 9. So that's pretty good variety. I won't always do it like in order, but the point is, yeah, what other anime have I seen, or like in what order? So DBZ would certainly be on there. Then after that, at some point, you know, you see like Death Note, obviously really great. I've always, you know, I've done analysis and stuff on Light countless times. I always end up having to debate and defend Light in that basis. Like, people always say, oh, it's because of the Notebook. But the Notebook allows him to do something he wouldn't have been able to do otherwise, but that doesn't mean he's not as smart as L, right? He just wouldn't be able to do, you know, L can't do what he does either without the Notebook. Like, kill 700,000 people and this and that. At best, let's say he wanted to try to do the same thing, he would have killed a couple people, 10, 20, whatever, in his local area, and been like original honesty, who's really hard to catch. You can't just kill 700,000 people or whatever number he does and reduce worldwide crime by 70%. But L can't do that either without the Notebook. But no, the Yotsuba arc defends him the best. In the Yotsuba arc, he performs, when he doesn't have his memories or the Notebook, he performs just as well as L, right, in the Yotsuba investigation. So that shows you right there. He's on par with L, if not even better than L, right, and so that's fine. And he's such a master of psychological for reading people and figuring out what they'll do, right? And there's a lot of great qualified intelligence moments. Yeah, that's a great series, obviously. Then Code Geass is a really good series. It disappointed me towards the end of it, but up until then, I was definitely... It's still a really, really good series. And then they either made like a movie or they made like a season 3 or something, but I haven't seen that. I've seen, obviously, season 1 and 2, so that's really good, but not quite as good as Death Note. And then I did like a tier list of these actually some time ago. So like, ranking so far would go like probably Death Note, Code Geass, then DBZ, or something similar to that. And then, what else? Darker Than Black is just a personal favorite of mine. I always bring up the Yojimbo effect, like, there's like these very quick but high stakes action scenes where it feels like everything's very decisive and there's a lot of game theory. He throws the blood on his mask, he has a bulletproof vest, there's like some strategic element of why he wins these fights. And they're very fast-paced, very high stakes. The anti-DBZ almost in that sense, where the fights don't drag out at all. And then, what else? But so that's just a personal favorite of mine, but maybe not quite as good as the other ones. And then, what else? There's not really that many I've seen. I saw some of them that I've almost forgotten, like Neon Genesis obviously is a classic, but I don't remember that much about it, honestly. And Berserk I saw, and Cowboy Bebop, but I'll even leave those off, because I either saw them a super long time ago, or I just maybe was watching them at half attention while doing something else, because I don't remember them super well. And so those are all fine. I'm trying to think what else we might have seen. Obviously, Full Metal Alchemist, the 2003 series, which I'm notorious for always saying it's so underrated and defending it, that it lives up to, it's one of the best ever for sure. In fact, it's better than virtually all the other ones even that I named. So the 2003 series is really good, and then obviously this 2009 series, Brotherhood, is really good too. And so I'm not sure what I've seen beyond that. That might be almost all I've seen. Right, let me try to think. I can't think of really anything else I've seen. Or at least like all the way through, so the ones that I've seen I've really appreciated and gotten into, but I haven't seen as many obviously as probably what other people would have. And so, but I've still seen more full series of that. Maybe partly because they're shorter, like, some of these are only 37 episodes, 50 episodes, compared to how many, American TV shows are, like, real life shows have I seen in full? And the answer is basically none, because, even the ones that are among my favorites, like The Mentalist or something, I still wouldn't have seen the entire thing, like the last season I haven't seen, or something like that. And so the point is that you're basically in a position that I've still seen more full animes than full TV shows, but I haven't seen very many of either in that regard. And so the point being that, those might be. I'm trying to think if there's something else. There must at least be one or two other ones that I've seen. Yeah, I've seen very few. I've seen them sometimes multiple times. I've seen maybe both the sub and the dub, but usually I'll watch the dub, first. And so, what else is there? There's got to be at least one more. Okay, so I actually got baited by Crunchyroll, because you go up to look where to watch Serial Experiments Lain on Google, and nothing shows up. It's not on any streaming service, it's not showing up anywhere, and the only thing that does show up is that, it shows up in the Crunchyroll directory. But then if you go to click on it, which I didn't do until I actually, subscribed, I just I see it on Crunchyroll, it popped up, and I don't want to spoil anything either. I want to go in blind and not accidentally look at something. But then you go on to Crunchyroll after I subscribed, and I got baited by it, but it's in the directory, but it's not actually on there. You can't actually watch it. It's just listed as this is a series that exists. Like, what kind of garbage is that? So it's on Apple TV something, and it's also on, Microsoft. So whichever version you watch, just maybe account for the fact that the timestamp is a little bit different. It's also apparently on the Internet Archive, and that's totally not where I'm watching it now. But this is English dub, Season 1, Episode 1, Serial Experiments Lain. Again, I don't know anything about it. Something just kind of grabbed me about it when I saw it. I saw, one clip. It was either the tone of it, it was either it's where her dad is scolding her. I don't know what episode that would be in. Her dad is scolding her about something to do with the computer, and she's, all, I don't know, she looks totally out of it, she's almost hypnotized by it, and, I don't know what the context of it is, but that's the only clip I've seen from it. But either the visual style, it's kind of simple and old school, obviously it is an older anime, but also it's only one season apparently, only 13 episodes, which again, I was trying to avoid looking at that, but then I couldn't find it. It is very difficult to find. I looked on Amazon Video, and again, it's on there, it shows up as a listing, and it shows all the episodes, but then it says, this video is not available. So it was actually super hard to track this shit down. But yeah, it's on Apple TV, some kind of on iTunes apparently, and then it's also just on the Microsoft Web Store. So either one of those you could potentially watch it on. So let's see, we're going to start Season 1, Episode 1 in 3, 2, 1. and it took, maybe there's sometimes like a second delay when you do that. And of course, this whole horizontal thing I'm used to now, the horizontal fucking landscape because of, let me guess, my headphone. Oh no. Alright, we didn't actually, are you fucking, man, the number of scuffed elements to this setup is just unbelievable. So now I have my Bluetooth little headphones in, but they're not working. So now I'll have to redo the whole thing. But basically, what you have is a position where, this is the English dub, right? This is season 1, episode 1. But no, you have, like I'm watching it in a horizontal landscape because I'm used to that from HBO Max, but originally I was trying not to do that because it's so awkward to keep your phone kind of at this level. And again, the English dub is necessitated by the simple fact of, just I wouldn't be able to read subtitles. I was kind of trying to do that with 30 coins, although I didn't know 30 coins was actually, man, this is bullshit. Because then when I'm already driving and I've already committed, like I'm ready to watch, all I have to do is hit the play button, everything's ready. But no, it's not, because you have to go through all this. But anyway, these will be kind of short episodes too, so I'll do this on the every other day basis. Right, this will be like sort of the main series, I guess, the other slot. And then we'll do Full House tomorrow, then we'll do this again on, what's today, Thursday, so we'll do this again on Saturday. So this is fun. The one thing I could also do with this format is I could also stream it, for whatever that's worth. And I could also, you would need a more elaborate setup. And I could also improve the setup for one other simple reason, and that simple way would be the ability to basically have a better mic, and that's probably something I should do, all things considered. So let me try to fix this. I really hate having to do this. One of these times I'm going to get a ticket or something for it, but I'm not really doing anything wrong. It's just... Okay, 0 seconds there. So there's one thing and one thing only that's confusing me, and it's actually the stupid Bluetooth thing. And now it'll fuck up the whole orientation of this, probably. Like, I don't get it, man. It was just paired, it was just working. And then now sometimes it just randomly doesn't. You have to, like, open the thing that it's in, and then it pairs, and then you close it again. Or something like that. Active, but I can't hear it. It'll say something stupid like in your ear, like, it'll say like hello or something when it works. So hang on. Yeah, this is truly a certain amount of dedication. I think really the main issue with it now is just simply the fact of the audio in the background, although some of that's even my fault, just because I'm like eating while doing it sometimes. So let me try to open this up again. We gotta go full screen. Come on, man. Then we gotta make sure we're at 0 seconds, right? It's gotta be exact for my timestamp capability. So we're starting actually for real now, I would hope, because I think this Bluetooth thing will work, but I still haven't heard it. So we go in 3, 2, 1, no. We go in 3, 2, 1, start. Okay, I hear like a little static sound. The hell is that? Is that supposed to be part of the show? Present day, present time, ha ha ha. Is this like the intro, or is it like a logo? Or I've heard this song somewhere too. I think I saw this show referenced on some meme, like they played this around 9/11 instead of some regularly scheduled programming, because it's equally sullen to, in Japan or something. They played this because of 9/11. They didn't want to play something more upbeat. So we got the song going on. We got a kid playing on like a little TV. Yeah, I maybe heard the song before too, in that context. Something about the tone just sort of strikes me. Like, I like things that take themselves seriously. Duvet Boa. Obviously, this is what made Boa famous. I mean, I've heard the song outside of that too, but... They're almost making it seem like she's singing it, like lip-syncing it on the TV or whatever. Or on the computer, I guess it'll be. So we'll see how she gets addicted, just like every other kid in the modern day, to a computer, but in a bit more of a dark way maybe, or this was kind of a little prophetic that way, because even though you had video games and you had computers. It wasn't quite, this is like 1990 something. This is interesting though that they have an English song in here, because even though it's an English dub, you have countless shows that'll have Japanese, intros and outros still, despite the fact that it's an English dub. One thing we're not going to have here is subtitles. I don't think this has it. Which is a weird thing to complain about. So the episode's called Weird. It's a weird thing to complain about, because I was just saying how I don't want, I want both. I want to hear it and subtitles, because it's kind of quiet. Everybody's just laughing, being a dick. Elitist victim blamer. It's your fault if you're having a heart attack on the street. Fuck you. What is that, dude? Everybody's just laughing and doesn't give a shit. Amazing. So I can't read. It's saying something in Japanese here. Crazy, funky colored screen. I think I'm going to like this, actually. Now she pulls out her Death Note and kills him for harassing this girl, like the Taku Shibri Maru guy from Death Note. And it could be the same voice actor. It kind of sounds like him. She's doing some kind of pose here. I don't know what the hell is going on. She felt like she was saying something, but she didn't actually say anything. Like her lips were moving. Or is she gonna kill herself? What the fuck? Maybe this is how it starts, and then it goes into a flashback, like how did we get to this point? She became so disillusioned with the world by her obsession with the computer that she ends up killing herself. I'm just coming up with theories. You were just laughing at her a second ago. Yeah, that's a heavy way for it to start, though. So is that even her? I can't even tell, really. That could be somebody else, or then it would have to be a flashback. It's sometimes hard for me to follow visually, just because, whatever. This is kind of weird setup. Imagery of all the interconnected wires, even if they're like telephone poles and electricity, I kind of see what they're trying to, It's going to be a lot of that kind of stuff, like this fear of technology and obsession with it. See, she's walking through the wires, like she's trapped between the computer wires here. I don't know, I'm reading into it maybe too much, but there's a reason why they're showing all that, I think. Or to show that they've recently put these things in, because that's becoming a big thing now. Right, like they're new poles. Or she's even looking at them. There's like some avant-garde movie imagery, right? Like symbolizing what is to come here, foreshadowing it. How could everybody have heard that on the train and been quiet at the same time? They hear her whisper, "Can you just shut up?" So she doesn't like noise. She's talking to me, actually, because I'm just rambling on, but there's not much dialogue so far. So she's done nothing to gain or lose a character point so far. Obviously, nothing substantial has happened yet. I don't understand the person who killed themselves at the beginning. That could either be her in the future, like this is what it's going to culminate in, and this is all a flashback, or that could be somebody else, and I'm just jumping the gun a little bit, but either way, that's a heavy way for it to start. Yeah, that's going to cheer you up if they play that on 9/11. Watch a little girl kill herself. Julie is one girl who got pranked here. She doesn't know it. She doesn't want to be picked on. Okay, so it was somebody else. The original cyberbullying, sending mean emails, just block their email then. She seems very apathetic and indifferent to everything. Like, she didn't care about email. She didn't care about, so she's not into computers yet. Or they're even, she seemed afraid of being made fun of. Like, oh, I'll learn computers just so I don't get made fun of like Julie or whatever. Not that that's why. So it was a classmate who got pranked. Or no. It was a classmate, but she killed herself, and now that email is sending stuff to everybody. So maybe she'll try to figure out how. And people would say, oh, she has like ADD, ADHD. This is literally what it looks like. But I mean, the way those terms are used is so incorrect. But like, she keeps spacing out and having these moments, and they keep showing this multicolored rainbow screen. I'm not sure what all this is. It's written in Japanese, and doesn't have subtitles. You have an English opening song, but you don't have subtitles for that part. Like, where are your priorities at? What is this, The Godfather 1 in that scene with Sollozzo where they thought it was a good idea somehow to not have subtitles for the climactic scene there that's so important, where they're speaking in Italian? So you get to see the wires again, good imagery there. So she was very indifferent. The teacher was trying to bully her into using email, check your email. Like, who does that? I never did that at school either. Like, you didn't have to have an email for shit. Like, what is this? Even in a much later period of time, but especially then. Right, like when it's just a new cutting edge thing, you would integrate it into schools that quickly. Japanese schools are weird. She just seems so understated. I don't know, there's something about her disposition that just strikes me. Like, there's something about her, like she's sullen. Very quiet scene, sullen. She seems to have a very active imagination, so now she'll look at all this and then she'll get addicted to it. Pretty fancy, has a voice acting to it. Voice pad, but this is way too advanced for the time. This was supposed to be something futuristic. We still don't have this shit now. Also, we can't see what she's typing there. But that must be the... the girl who died, right? She said basically that she didn't die. She's... like she somehow became one with the computer system. That I wasn't expecting it to go that way. So she didn't actually die. She's part... I thought that was her own disillusion, that... or I guess I thought that was Lain, but... like, the person who kills themselves is so disillusioned with computers that they're doing that for some other reason, but... she asks, is that okay, but she's just gone. Mother doesn't seem to give a shit. So she somehow became one with the computer system, and then Lain is going to try to do the same thing. Maybe with good reason, to try to find out what all this is. It's like some sort of trap to bait people in when it's obviously not really her, but it could be anybody. The original cyberbully, the original creepy, like people who pretend to be a different age online to try to meet you or whatever. The original online predator. Or it could be really her and there's something else going on that's actually supernatural. Like, but how would killing herself do that? Like, make her one with the computer? I don't know what... And her dad is conveniently working on some supercomputer system, too. That she seemed to have no interest in until... now. He's been... this is... it's just kind of comical how he's so into it. He's gonna live to regret this advice, though. She'll take it too far. that scene kind of ruins it a little bit because now the roles are going to be reversed. He seems like he's obsessed, but he's actually not. He has self-control. It just seems like that, whereas she's going to get genuinely obsessed, right? So he's giving her advice, don't be afraid, it's okay, it's just a computer. But he knows when to stop, the father. But she won't know when to stop. And then it'll turn the tables and she'll... She's the type of character who is so quiet and understated that you can never tell if anything's wrong with her, right? She could be really sad and about to kill herself too, or she could be perfectly fine. But her disposition is so muted and so... She's literally me, maybe, because I was always quiet when I was younger. There's something about her that's hard to put my finger on. Very mysterious, like... Even without all this computer stuff, there's just something, I usually am good at getting a read on a character, but I can't. She's just like lost and just always daydreaming and... No, but that was just funny how all this talk about computers and the dad is on the forefront of it, building a supercomputer. You don't think that would try to make you sort of interested, but I guess the mother maybe kept her out of it. The mother didn't say anything either. She didn't care about the email that she got from a dead friend. I love that. This is the advent of technology and computers, and the first thing you do is prank somebody with the dead girl's fucking email, even if it's not a prank. This is at least a good series to react to because it's so quiet. There's so much room to talk. I don't know what those screens are constantly, though, with the multicolored. I don't know what it keeps telling me. Like, I can't read the subtitles. Or there are no subtitles. Or it'll give her a bad idea. Maybe if I kill myself too, I'll go in the computer system. Like, I don't know. I'm somehow suspecting that's how the series ends, or... Yeah, but the dad was kind of funny there, just with the whole... Not only the reveal that he happens to conveniently be working on computers, but also the fact of just how into it he is. Which sets sort of a bad precedent, like, oh, this is a bad thing to teach your kids. You're addicted to computers and they'll get addicted too. So the signs are there of foreshadowing, like, there's nothing to be afraid of. And that's not going to age very well, right? Just, there is something to be afraid of, especially when a young, impressionable kid who's like a blank slate like this See, what's happening with her has nothing to do with the computer, though. It's like, she was looking like this before. She's just getting obsessed over the message, which, to be fair, it is very confusing. Like, if this was a new thing that you're not used to, like email, you wouldn't know that, oh, it could just be somebody pranking. Right, and that is a pretty sick thing to do, so we'll be led to wonder whether it's a prank or not. Right, for most of the show, but then it'll turn out it's not, and then she'll try to join her in the cyber world. That's what she was even saying. I'm trying to meet a friend. So she's trying to meet the girl who sent her the email through the virtual world or whatever. She looked much older, though, somehow, in the beginning, in that first scene. The friend who killed herself. This is going to be some really fucking trippy show. Like, there's going to be all kind of weird stuff that happens probably. And just left to interpretation, Stanley Kubrick kind of crazy shit. To be continued. That's the episode. So it was a decent episode. Let's watch the outro here. I'll give it probably like maybe a B to a C. It's hard to judge the first episodes. I'll give it a B. It's an interesting, but I don't know what to make of it. Its imagery on the outro is a little questionable. It's a young girl like one of these, but it's without clothing on. Very strange. We don't want to see this, dude. But no, it's basically being caressed by the wires of the big computer system world that they're getting into, the virtual world. So, yeah, her friend killed herself, and then she's all apathetic and that's just her normal disposition. Not that she's apathetic about the friend. You know, the outro is in Japanese. I don't get it. Why do we get Boa Duvet as the intro, but then this? What a choice, too. But no, it's like, the father seems obsessed with the computers, his characterization, right, and is encouraging the daughter to get into computers, too, and she was kind of indifferent to them before. Like, maybe the father even pushed her to care more about them before, but she didn't care. And now, she's the one taking the initiative because of the email she got. That's what kind of piqued her interest. And she's obsessed over that because her friend killed herself, so that'll be like the MacGuffin device where she's trying to meet her friend the whole time, who the mother didn't seem to give a shit. The sister seems to be in her own world, but Lain's really going to be in her own world pretty soon, like an actual virtual world. But no, it's basically... Or is it going to go into episode 2 now? I don't want it to, obviously. But no, that was pretty good. I'm definitely intrigued. Some of the imagery and stuff is a little weird. We're like, I don't know. I'll just listen to the song, I guess, again. Boa Duvet at the beginning. Fuck. But while I do like a little outro. Yeah, it's pretty good. The father was kind of funny with that whole scene. Like, just he's obsessed with the computer, even though he's telling her there's nothing to be afraid of when you're kind of exhibiting what there could be to be afraid of. The teacher is pushing her. So all these irresponsible adults are giving her the gateway drug that's going to get her obsessed with this shit, right? Like, the teacher's pressuring her, you should check your email. The father's pressuring her, oh, you should get into this. Finally, you got the computer bug. But there is everything in moderation. You have to be able to control it. So this is what I always say in general. Don't blame the computer. Don't blame the internet. Some people study on the internet and they become a genius and they'll use that to cure cancer or whatever. And then somebody else will just play video games all day and jerk off to porn. Like, it depends how you use it. Don't blame the tool, blame the user. So don't say, oh, the internet and technology and video games and stuff have ruined our kids or ruined everything. Because it's your choice whether to use it or not, and it's also your choice how to use it. So it's always the user. You're always going to blame something else, but it's your fault. Now, in this case, it's a young girl, so that's obviously a little bit harder to figure out, but there is something mysterious about her for sure. So there's nothing worthy of a character point up or down. Like, it's just all pretty much standard stuff. But yeah, the teacher's pressuring her to get into computers. The father is kind of in a way. Maybe she's afraid of getting picked on by girls at school, like how, whatever, the one girl was making fun of her. Like, Lain doesn't even know how to use computers or whatever. Somebody comes over and makes fun of her a little bit. So for all these peer pressure reasons, it's very understandable that she would get into it now. Also, the fact of the fake email, the little email scam thing that we have with respect to, what do you call it? Just the fake email. So you're left to wonder as a viewer, and I honestly don't know, but it almost seems like it's leaning in the direction of, what is this thing at the beginning too? Present day, present time, ha ha ha. What the fuck is that? What is that part of the show, or is that just the logo at the beginning, I assume? That's like the evil computer mastermind talking. And it's quite the name too, Serial Experiments Lain. And the first episode was called Weird. It was only moderately weird though. she's going to keep having these flashes of imagining, because her imagination is very wild like that. So the worst thing you can give her is something that feeds into that, or maybe the best thing. So now she'll become more into computers than even her dad, right? And even he'll kind of warn her off, like, you're taking it too far now. It's a hard thing to get people to stop doing, too, like, because it seems so innocuous. Like, oh, all they're doing is using a computer. All they're doing is playing video games. But some people take it too far where, you know, it's different than, like, oh, you're not using alcohol and drugs. You're just using a computer, or, like, a phone. But that ends up being what everybody does anyway, or, like, I don't know, something that can kind of get swept under the rug and you don't think about it until maybe it's too late. But I'm always the elitist victim blamer, like it's your fault if you get obsessed. But at least in the case of kids, I'm a little bit less harsh. Like, yes, it's still within your control, but adults and parents should be a little more of a guiding force to some extent, because you're much more impressionable. Something about the way they've shown her, like the way she looks. I don't know. She always has this sullen, I don't know, something's very striking about her character to me. I don't know how to explain it even. She's this typical, you know, quiet, reserved, shy, in her own world, lost, perfect stereotype. I don't know. There's just something strange. But yeah, she's going to try to do this to try to find her friend and get obsessed with that. Whether it actually is her friend or whether it is actually some kind of... I mean, it's starting off as if it's a prank. Because, like, what did she do to prove? What did she do to prove that it's her? I guess she said that we had that walk together one day, which maybe that would verify that it actually has to be her, because how would anybody else know about that? They could have just guessed that, oh, we walked together. But the email that she sent to Lain wasn't very mean. So maybe the girl that was crying, she had been mean to her, and that's why she was being mean and lashing out in that prank, so quote-unquote prank email. But maybe Lain was nice to her. Yeah, this will be nice. So I'll do my Full House episode 2 tomorrow, then I'll do this the day after. I like these kind of shorter episode series too, because I wouldn't watch 2 of them, but it gives me time to do an intro, outro. What else interesting happened? Some of the visual imagery with the wires, obviously, that you're walking above and in between, like on the street and stuff like that. That certainly is some good imagery. What else? It starts off, you know, obviously heavy. We're gonna hear Boa every episode, though. Not really what I was expecting, but I might have seen that clip too, though, just the 9/11 thing. It has like a little ticker that says, we canceled our regular scheduled programming to instead bring you this, which will cheer you up after 9/11. But I think that was even in Japan that they were, or maybe not. I don't know. Because then why would I have the Boa song? maybe they used the song even in Japan, even though then the outro is in Japanese. I'm so confused, but... So you get one English opening no matter whether you're watching in Japanese or English, and then you get one Japanese outro whether you're watching in Japanese or English too. But no, she's sort of always daydreaming in class and fantasizing anyway, and the board keeps, you know, again, people point, oh, it's ADD, it's ADHD, all these labels, all these excuses, like, she's just a young girl, she has an active imagination, they can't be reduced to the contrivances of normal society. So everybody has those things. Doesn't mean it has to be, you know, characterized in such a bad way or in such a, I don't know. I don't like all these labels that people give, right? Everybody is something. Everybody's either OCD or ADD or ADHD or idiosyncrasy, or Tony Soprano had a good line there, despite all his clown behavior, like where, you know, fidgeting is a sign of autism or ADHD, but it's like, it's not actually that. It's like everybody fidgets. I'm fidgeting right now. He's fidgeting there. Is he talking about it? Like, you know, these are normal idiosyncrasies that everybody has. So yeah, what else happened? Notable, the mom doesn't seem to really care about anything. See, they'll tell you if you really listen, but you won't care when they do, right? My dead friend just emailed me, and the mom doesn't give a shit. And the sister is kind of doing whatever, like she didn't seem to care. That's all the characterization of her that we got. I ate a big lunch, I'm good, I don't want dinner. And so she just leaves, and then the dad's busy working on and playing with his computers. The wife doesn't seem to get it, I guess, like, or doesn't like maybe the way that the husband obsesses over it. But I'm assuming that's also work related too. Like, he probably works on them or sells them or something, I don't know. Like, he could just be doing it as a hobby. But we got to learn more about the parents and the family. Trying to, like, psychologically profile her and stuff. It was kind of like an understated episode. It wasn't bad, but it was just like, I don't know, there's not much really to talk about. She's obviously obsessing, and a lot of this crazy imagery that she's going to pursue. How do I find my friend? Sometimes you just have to tell somebody, though, because she's going to go through something here where it's like, you know, it's a hard thing to explain. My dead friend is emailing me, and I'm trying to escape into the virtual world to go find her, and nobody's going to believe me, and nobody gives a shit because my mom's apathetic and my sister's doing her own thing, and, like, whatever, you know what I mean? Like, it's, my dad's obsessed with his computers too, which almost validates my obsession, like, at least my obsession's for a good reason. He's just doing it to put food on the table. I'm doing it to find my friend. I don't know, like, she'll have all these, mixed messages, so she'll hang on to her dad's words like, it's okay, there's nothing to be afraid of, it's a good thing, you should, you know, you're encouraging her, which is good, arguably, you know, this is the future, maybe you'll get a job working with the computers, you'll have to adjust to this modern world, but then, you know, it maybe takes it to an extreme, so you have to do it within moderation, and obviously she's probably not going to do that. You know, again, I'm just assuming this is where it goes, and that one clip is going to set the tone. If I hadn't seen that clip, I wouldn't have known, you know, I wouldn't have known that's where it would go, right, necessarily. I might think, oh, she's just going to go in a virtual world and whatever, like, just do stuff, but it doesn't mean she's going to get obsessed with it. Now, at least I know that implication is there. So, see, even the most minor spoilers can set a certain... So who is that young boy who's, like, playing at the TV? Or is that her just, like, with short hair so it looks like a boy? But she has a sister. She has, obviously, the mom and the dad are there. And I don't know what other characters were of note. I mean, there were some classmates, but we didn't really get too much on them. There's nothing to really latch on to. The teachers being a little bit forceful towards her about just check your email and stuff, but it's not a big deal. She's going to turn out to be like a genius with computers and be able to, you know, do stuff that is way above and beyond. But yeah, that's either like a really dirty, fucking disgusting prank to do, the fact that they're sending these people emails, prank emails, or again, it could be really her, which I'm more inclined to believe that, but, you know, I'm getting suckered in by the prank as much as she is. Like, it's actually my friend, and she actually knows these key pieces of information that only my friend could know, right? So far, just the fact that we went on a walk together, but... It'd be interesting to see it explained in some sort of real-world way, though. Like, oh, she just set a timer. Like, send this email at this time, right? Like, leave it as a draft, and it'll auto-send. So even if you're dead, it could still mess with people. That's like her final dying wish. Like a very creative suicide note to troll people. I don't know. Like, I'll send it after I'm dead somehow. I have this little app that lets me put it on a timer or something. Yeah, the way it has like a voice and everything is way more advanced than even stuff you see now or whatever. It was definitely like, wow, this is cutting edge technology for 1990 whatever. And, you know, you got like Cortana already. And it was even so impatient. She's kind of sitting there for a few seconds, and I asked her, like, why, like, hello, are you there? How are you? Like, because she doesn't respond in quick enough time. Yeah, very appropriate show for the time that would be considered even like sort of ahead of its time, just with some of these warnings and implications and whatever, suspicions about what the future of computers and things could hold. And certainly whenever there's something good, don't underestimate people's ability to mess it up, or, you know, people always take it too far, and then that gives everything a bad name. There's nothing wrong with computers, there's nothing wrong with the internet, but inherently, but you could use it for either positive or negative purposes. There was this thing I saw as a kid, or I heard about, that was like these live, this is highly illegal, and I only just heard about them, so obviously, but there were like these live street cameras that people would watch, that you could like hack into very easily from your computer and just watch a live street camera somewhere. And that's just like very disturbing. Like, I don't know, this was just a thing that I remember hearing about that kind of bothered me. People watch like live street cameras and they've hacked into them, and just not for any particular purpose. It's not like, oh, they're doing it to plan out a crime or something. It's just random. They wouldn't even necessarily be able to determine which one, right? But there would always be, so all the creepy applications that you can do, people use it to look up your name and find out where you live, and find out your whole history, and all these kind of sites there are sites designed for that, like, you know, do you want to know what your girlfriend was up to, or who your girlfriend is texting, or boyfriend is texting, and it tries to give you like this whole, just that I've heard about, not that I've ever used anything like, but you know how it is, like everything, they'll try to dox you. So again, just because you can use something for negative purposes like that doesn't mean you have to, or it doesn't mean, I don't know. There's something about Lain that actually left me speechless, though. I've seen other quiet, understated characters in so many other stories, but you can hear me always struggling to describe her. There's something about the way they've drawn her, or the way that she acts, that's very, very, it's speaking to something that I can't put into words, actually. But she's very mysterious and just very strange, and, you know, again, just like she's already in her own world, but she never knew what that world was until she discovered the virtual world, and that's what she was waiting for all along.